Hi, my name is Troy Rigel. I'm with Comark Equity Alliance. We kind of have a unique perspective on the river. We look at the river as competition for transportation. We're always looking to find the best value for our grain. To give you some perspective, we run approximately, the numbers in a little flex, but 160 elevators between 4 states, Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, and Oklahoma. And I can honestly say that in the 4 years, or the 2 years since we've been together, there's been at least one load come out of every one of those elevators and come to the river. Whether it's, trucks getting that neck of the woods and need a backhaul, whatnot, it's always in play, and it's always a part of our thought process.
What 2 states are your biggest members yet?
Oklahoma and Kansas. So we have a few. We only have one in Nebraska, so I can say we're in Nebraska, but it's pretty minimal. And we also have several in Texas, the Texas Panhandle, and there's a lot of those bushels that come across. We're always looking for the highest value that we can return to our producers. Since we are producer owned, we ultimately, at the end of the day, that's where that return goes back to. One of the things that in trading grain, a lot of people think that we worry about the price and all that stuff. Yeah, we worry about the price only in that that's what we bid the farmer. But at the end of the day, our real job is logistics. And it's about moving grain at the most efficient direction to the most efficient direction. And by having the river in place and having experience on the river for almost 30 years now, it's all about keeping railroads in check, keeping trucks in check, keeping even barges in check. The railroads would love to charge 30 or 40 cents more a bushel to go to the Gulf, okay? But they can't, because otherwise they're going to get less and less bushels because the river's going to pull more and more bushels. There's a balance going on there all the time, that between trucks, rail. I know there's terminals that will truck in stuff. You think they're going to load it in a rail car, and it actually becomes better value to go to the river. They can backhaul something to the river and actually get a better value back for it. So for us, we look at grain as having value once it gets on transportation. At the end of the day, we're supplying basically 3 types of users. We're supplying, end consumers, which is feed yards, things that feed the animal. We're supplying places that load cars onto rail, and then we're supplying the export market. And those are the markets that we're trying to, on a constant basis, balance between what works best, what doesn't work best. And the river is a big part of what we do. We're always looking to move bushels that direction on backhauls. We're always looking to, at times, rail freight gets so high that we can truck it straight over. Don't even have to pay the backhaul or get the backhaul rate. The interesting thing about the river is, in this river in particular, this is that we're at the end of the line. That this Arkansas, if you get to Catoosa, that is the absolute end of the line. And why that's important is because now you've got everything to the west and north that can possibly come and service it, which mostly is Kansas and Oklahoma and Nebraska and Colorado. Where if we were like at the midpoint on the river, you basically have kind of a thin line through that state as to what can go. So this, the Arkansas creates a lot of unique opportunities, not just for, Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas and Nebraska, but Colorado. We have stuff that comes. I know there's stuff that's come all the way from Colorado that made it all the way to the port. So it's something that it is as a driver to, economies. Think of all the truckers that are moving all the bushels to those facilities and all the jobs and all the families that those are feeding. When it takes 60 loads to fill a barge, that's a lot of meals on the table for a lot of families. You load a train someplace, that's, you got the engineer and a few maintenance people on the railroad, and that's about it, And so it's definitely an economic driver. Just to give you some idea on freight, barge freight can run anywhere from $8 to $20 a ton, maybe even higher than that. Rail.
From Catoosa to New Orleans?
That would be from Catoosa to New Orleans, which is 24 cents to 60 cents. Truck freight's, anywhere from, depending on the backhaul, 40 cents to 60 cents. So, it's a $1.20 through rate.
What you're saying, you can come from Enid to the river for about the same price as you can come from Catoosa to New Orleans per bushel.
I can come, yes, about the same. It's about half cost. You know, and if you think about it, you know, rail can be anywhere from $1.35 to if freight gets high enough, it can be $2 a bushel. And those freight rate costs are real back to the farmer. I mean, every time freight rates go up, it's cost back to the farmer. It reflects on a cheaper basis, and that, you know, it's not the you know, not the best for that, down to that segment. I guess the best way I know how to put it is that we all know that everything gets better when competition happens, and the river is the one competition that fights against the railroads. And now I deal with both. I love both, and I'm not going to speak badly, but there's a saying that we have in our industry, and it's really simple. It goes OR, OR, and it's simply our railroad, our rules. The river is a little different in that it is a little open market. There's several carriers, and there's a little more open competition. But any form of competition is a good thing. I mean, I've yet to haul many loads to Houston, but it can happen. We don't haul a lot of trucks that way. So, you know, if you got any questions, I'd love to address them. Like I said, we move a lot of bushels that direction. Troy, do you have anything to add? Troy works out of our Kansas office. So if you got any questions, don't hesitate to call either one of us. We rely an awful lot on the river. So.
I would like everyone here to know that we have big guns here. Mr. Hucker with CGB is the largest facility with the most bushels. I'm pretty sure. David has Gavilon up there, and it goes back and forth sometimes for periods. But the representation of Gavilon and CGB and Mr. Troy and their older daddy Alan. He is younger.
What haven't weathered as well.
Alan, they probably have the biggest stake in Kansas and Oklahoma as any identity, where they represent maybe 80 elevators in each state. So we got the grain side of this equation. We got the three of the biggest guns there. I'm not robbing your thunder, Mr. Beechner, at all, but and he's extremely important. But again, the two players on the river, the player off the river that plays the river. So it's just extremely important. That's why we wanted them to come. Hopefully to have you guys spread the word how important it is back to your grain or ag industry for your state.
Thank you, Troy. Jared?